Welcome to Captured by Women. Today's show promises to be very exciting and engaging. We're going to be talking about several issues that have been trending throughout the week that I'm sure have been of concern to you. We'll be discussing the issue of police brutality, child safety in the home. We'll be talking to a career woman, and of course, we'll be looking at interesting ways by which some young people are handling plastic waste. This show has been brought to you by Yumvita, a healthy way to go. My name is Petra, and I'll be doing this with Nana Ama and Rosamond. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
So for Spin today, we are discussing the issue about the number of staff at the presidency, but we are looking at it from the level of the gender disparity in the numbers. So ladies, let me ask you, there's been so much talk about gender parity at governance levels, but we see that from this example, we still have an issue there. What do you think?
Well, I mean, as we just recently celebrated International Women's Day and the theme was pushing for progress, I, for one, was very disappointed to realize that huge disparity, because we're talking about 71% representing male and just a little over 28% representing female. And that is a huge disparity, because in this day and age where women can do what men can do and seemingly even better, I'm wondering why you wouldn't be able to find so many women to work at the, presidency, because whatever position it is, I'm sure they're capable hands to have, fit those shoes. So I'm worried when, especially our president is someone who has fought or often, advocated for gender equality. And so I wasn't really counting on something like that in this government. I was looking at more. And then in totality, of course, 998, the special number that Petra mentioned, is huge. And so if you're trying to give everyone a share of the national cake, then I certainly think it should have been a 50-50 issue, or even maybe more, 70-30 in the favor of women.
Okay, what do you think?
In the larger conversation of women's participation in public office, mainly relating to politics, we do have an issue there.
Yes, in terms of numbers.
So I think about the fact that if you think about how many women are in parliament, or how many women put up themselves for political office, or are in politics actively anyway, then we need to start talking about that, because some of these positions also come about as a result of activism or your involvement, your participation, more or less. And so I'm wondering if that could be an issue. But because, and I'm saying that because I know that the president does have huge interest in ensuring that there's a lot of involvement and there's parity. Because he was recently awarded for something related to women's participation and being a champion of women's rights. So for me, that's where I tend to want to look at it. And also because of the fact that I've spoken to a lot of people, and there tends to be an issue of having women available and willing to step up to some of these things. That is where I also think we need to have a conversation. There are opportunities out there, but there's situations where you want women to step up and they're unwilling to.
Because of the systems we've created that seem to not make it easy for women to step up. Because, like you mentioned, in politics, I think the political scene is a bit different, because in parliament, you have to be elected, and so you have to campaign, you have to do all the rigorous activities that men easily do, because they don't have children to take care of, or they're not taking care of their home, or running all these other domestic, issues. But you've got a woman who has to do all these. So I'm thinking, if you feel you really are out for women, and you think in parliament, because they have to be voted for, they can't have the platform, then in a place where you easily can elect them or choose them to come on board, then that's where you'd open up the doors and allow them,
that's where the issue of affirmative action comes into play. And I know the political parties have had several conversations, especially the MPP, have had issues where they've said, okay, so where there are safe seats, give them to the women. But then we have to have a conversation about women putting themselves out there and being willing to participate and engage. Because I do know that, like you mentioned, the issue of the woman has children and she has family, and how we create a social support system to encourage her to do the things that she wants to do outside of the home. That's totally correct. But we have to consider the fact that we have to step up as well. And as much as I totally believe in the fact that we need to give women opportunities, we do have a challenge where women are not stepping up.
But would you say it's also an issue of competency and skills? I mean, for the lack of confidence, I totally agree with you that maybe the opportunities are given, but because women lack the confidence, they don't.
Some women.
Points of correction. Some women. So they lack the confidence to do that. But could it also be an issue of skill or competence?
But I mean, we've agreed the platform. It's just like, you know, trying to ask for employment in a job, and they're asking you for 10 years experience. Where am I supposed to get the experience from if you don't give me the platform? So in as much as Petra talks about opening, you know, the platform for women to actually step up to the game, there's also that discussion of giving them that platform even when they're not in, you know, the big shoes, to start small. As a young person, most women who would start in, say, universities, who are trying to be SRC president, whatever position, you are opposed by so many men, and by the time they actually even get through, you're almost, I mean, there's so many litigation, they go to court and all that. Yeah, so genuinely, there are those issues. But what is the toughening up when the system too doesn't necessarily help you? So I think it's a two-way affair. I agree with the women stepping up, but there are women who are ready to step up, but they're not being able to because so many things also equally oppose them.
But I disagree with the thinking that we need to make it easier per se. We need to create an equal opportunity, an environment where everybody has an equal opportunity to take advantage of.
So would you say that there are deliberate structures that impede, impede women's progress?
I would say that there are deliberate things in our social, cultural communities that
feed into the governance system.
Yes, yes. So for instance, how the political environment is very hostile in how new entrants, preventing new entrants from coming in. And the fact that when a woman steps up and she wants to go into politics, then you start hearing all the things, the things about, I mean, like the joke, when you go into politics, when you hear where your grandfather and your grandmother are from, like everything gets digged up about you. And the fact that can the women want to deal with all of that? But it's a reality and it's something we have to deal with.
Bringing this issue Nanama raised about women putting themselves out there. The issue also is that I think some women also opt themselves out of the opportunities because the reality is that we are the primary caregivers. You are juggling work, you are juggling home affairs, you are juggling being a wife. So even when such opportunities are offered, you want to be able to have a fair balance. I mean, how many women? I mean, I've heard of women who are given career opportunities abroad. And their kind of work needs constant travel. Yet they let it go, or they can't take it up because they want to be able to balance the family responsibilities.
So supposing she even had a supportive husband, is going to go, how come your husband is having to do the domestic work and you are going out there to be the voice?
Tell me about it.
So I'm saying that these situations also make the women
just let me do what I'm supposed to do and do it well because everyone expects me to be a mother and a wife. That is cut out. The man is not going to share with you. And so I think until those things too, it's not about giving us advantage over the men. Give us an equal playing field. Yes, we know we're wives. Yes, we know we're mothers. But when we also step up, encourage us, allow us to do what we want to do. And if the man decides to support at home, don't, stand in my way.
When it's not an easy terrain as well, we need to be aware that we still need to push. I mean, it's not going to fall into anybody's lap. We still need to push.
Okay. So bottom line, we still need to push for progress. We still need to take up the opportunities that are offered us. I'm sure you've enjoyed the discussion. We'll take a short break and we'll continue with the rest of the show.
The 1992 Constitution establishes several things, and one of the important institutions of state that Constitution establishes is the institution of the police service. The police service is supposed to protect us, protect life and property, and ensure our security. There is no doubt that the police has done a lot to ensure that this mandate is established and well laid out. However, this week, we've had an incident of police brutality, and so many incidents in the last couple of weeks. Today, we're going to be looking at that issue of police brutality and what we are doing and what we can do to ensure that indeed the police is our friend. In our studio today, we have with us Mr. Emmanuel Kuting, who is going to help us with this discussion. Interestingly, he's also had an incident that I'm sure he will speak to. Welcome, Mr. Kuting, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm sure you've had several instances to talk about what happened with you and the police, but we want to look at the issue of police brutality generally and what the challenge is first on the police side. We also want to be balanced and talk about what the challenge is on the citizen side and where we should move the conversation to. Because the police are supposed to be our friends. They're supposed to be protecting us, ensuring that we are safe and secure. We should be able to reach out to them, and we shouldn't be afraid of them if we're not doing anything illegal, that is. So maybe you should start off with your initial thoughts.
Well, thank you. If you look at the topic in question, in fact, it's unfortunate over the last few days, the police have been in the news oftentimes for the wrong reasons. And the incidences are becoming one too many, given that they've just launched their transformation agenda to make the police more friendly, community-oriented, because they have even come to the realization that in the 21st century, policing is all about intelligence gathering and community collaboration. But unfortunately, there are some bad notes. And like every human institution, we have this kind of things happen. But the challenge, however, is that why is the majority not prepared to flash out the few that is so denting their hard-earned reputation? So those are the challenges and the things we should be looking at. And I feel that we are having some of these things because of institutional problems. Institutional problems in the sense that if you look at our recruitment culture, it has not changed over the period. Another aspect we ought to be looking at is the refresher programs for our police service. How often do we give them refresher programs? And the other aspect we should be looking is that it's true. We, the citizenry, we have a role to play, but it looks as if most of us sometimes are not cooperative, and it leads to some of these incidents. But you see, an action brings a reaction. Definitely. So that is why I feel that the police has a lot of work to do to patch itself from this name tagging, because otherwise, how is the community ever able to collaborate or even give them information? So this is where we have gotten to, and it's very unfortunate.
Okay. I'm sure the police, as of now, looking at it, I think they have a challenge in understanding where their graduated force ends or where it should even start. And so for you as an expert, what would you say is the limit to which a policeman, even in attempting to get information from you, can apply force?
You see, we are in the 21st century. We've so chosen democracy as our way of governance. And if you look at it in its entirety, development is freedom. Without freedom, you can't have development. And to that extent, there's a nexus between security and development. So if you look at our status, if you coerce someone or you torture someone to solicit evidence, it cannot be admissible in our law court if the person is able to show proof in court that I was tortured or I was coerced to give such an evidence. But look at what is happening. Look at what happened to the Joy FM reporter, just asking a harmless question. And look at the level of force. And look at what happened to my brother, my namesake, they killed over the weekend at Abuba. And even look at what happened in the eastern region.
And we have a situation with Godfred Tenam as well.
Yeah, yes. I was coming to Godfred. I listened to Godfred's case and I felt that no, there's everything wrong with the institution. And I feel that they need to reorient, do some kind of monitoring and evaluation. Those who are not fit for a purpose, they should get rid of them. And at any rate, we have youth unemployment problem on our hands. So those who are prepared to work, then they work. Because if you are not armed as a civilian, why would the police apply force to you? So I think that a debate has come where we need to be talking about what it means to use minimum force. And I think the police have to look at it very carefully and educate its members, because some of them are just misusing it.
Okay, so then the conversation then for our viewers at home will be, when you experience an injustice coming from a law enforcement officer, which is such an a contradiction, what are your opportunities for redress? What should they do? Because I noticed that you, for instance, have gone through the procedure of engaging the police service. What does the person out there do when a police officer manhandles them, ruffles them up, and does something against what we know is correct?
Unfortunately, they have their own officers investigating these kind of things.
That's another issue.
And when you are not able to get credible witness, the case go under the radar. Like in my case, they try forcefully to say things that didn't happen. My lack was that I had former MPs, even one of them, two of them. One was a minister of state, the other a deputy minister of a region, coming to say that, look, this thing must end once and for all. So they volunteered their time and came and collaborated my story. But there are many instances where some of these things happen. They go to PIPs, go and come, and because of even frustration of having to forgo your job,
time,
and you know, time is a factor here. Some of us cannot even afford our bread and butter, and the little you have to be communing a home to PIPs. So I think it's a challenge, and now I've called that, look, PIPs has outlived its usefulness. There should be an independent police commission, not headed by the police. How can the police investigate itself? And it looks as if our democracy is artificial. Because if you look at the indices that support a true democracy, we don't have it. Security is one of the pillars. But look at what is happening in the country. And we have so reduced our democracy to elections, changing of leaders, and I think it's not the good way to go.
I have a very fundamental question, because I'm worried that the denigration of this police attitude, would you think it results from citizens not knowing the power they wield themselves, and so knowing where a policeman's limit is?
I think it's a subculture within the institution. Let me put it blunt. And because these things have happened in the past, and they don't take punitive measures against them, there is no any disincentive not to do. And so look at the three policemen who were engaged in renting their rifles to the armed robbers, right? These things have happened over the period. What has the police administration done about it? So we want to know from the IGP over the period what they have done. Merely sacking these people will not be deterrent enough. They must look at the criminal element and name and shame them.
And on that naming and shaming note, I think we would have to wrap up the conversation. There's so much we can talk about relating to the police and ensuring security, and especially ensuring that citizens know the procedure for redress. But we're going to thank you very much for joining us, and we have to wrap up on this. And I hope that you get an end to your situation with the police, and please let us know.
Most grateful. We'll take a break. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue with Big Bang 2.
Welcome back. You're still here with us on Captured by Women, and we're doing Big Bang 2. We're talking about child safety at home. Last week, some children died because their parents had sprayed insecticide that was an agrochemical meant for pesticides, but unfortunately, they lost their lives. And this has been spread to cover safety generally at home, because parents oftentimes will leave their children at home without taking care of small bits that could lead to harming the children. So we're going to be delving into this with Mr. Bright Appiah, the Director for Child's Right International. Good afternoon. Welcome to Captured by Women.
Yeah, good afternoon.
So it's rather unfortunate that some parents spray top toxin, which became a big issue. But beyond this, there's so many other harmful practices that parents indulge in, and also some that they leave around without even noticing, the safety profile of the instrument or equipment, and results in some harm to these children. So tell me your general perception of safety at home when it involves children in Ghana.
Yeah, well, for me and the work that I've done so far, one of the things that is so critical is that parents must monitor the environment and what goes on there, because children, by design, they can pick things and then do it the way they feel like they want to do it. Some also are curious and they want to understand certain things in the environment and all that. So the environment is very important. Then also what parent does in the environment is also critical, because there are certain things that parents do that would have impact on the lives of children, but sometimes they feel that either they are having fun with it or they are just creating a conducive environment for children, but sometimes those things can harm them. So there are a lot of things that they have to take into consideration, especially where even the lighting system that you place in the house, you have to be very curious and you have to understand how you communicate with children. Then also if it has to do with certain chemicals, you'd also have to understand the effect of it. And when it comes to chemicals, I always say that if you're a parent and you go to maybe a pharmacy and you want to buy a certain type of medicine, you know, the officers must also be interested in whether or not you have children at home and what you are going to use it for. And even warned you that this particular drug, you cannot make it available for children. It's not everybody who can just read exactly. So officials of these who find themselves in such professional position must also offer advice to parents. By so doing, we all become sensitive to the environment and how we can protect it for the welfare of children.
Very well.
So would you say that it takes a village to raise a child?
Yes.
I tend to feel that we may have neglected on our societal role to raise our children as a collective. And so, for instance, you mentioned that when someone goes into a pharmacy, the people at the shop should advise that you can't make this. I don't think that's ever done. The fact that we think that, okay, this is harmful for children, even though the inscriptions are on the containers and bottles, nobody emphasizes it. Do you think we should begin to have a national conversation about how we are concerned about children? And I think that we may also be losing sight of the fact that it's not our child, but it's the community's child is our child. And we need to be more mindful. Do you think we've lost that type of collective responsibility to the well-being of children?
Brian, sorry, before you come in, let me just tag on to that by asking that. So would you say that there is a general lack of consciousness about public safety? And which body or bodies are responsible for, say, educating us on safety generally?
Yeah, well, for issues concerning children, everybody is part of the process. And though we have certain institutions that have been mandated to do that, but generally that responsibility is on all of us. Because the kind of social system that we've built in this country is more like a social welfare system. And in a social welfare system, everybody must be held responsible, or the state have assigned everybody a certain level of responsibility. So if you're a professional person, you need to observe that, because the law provides that anything that you do should be the best interest of the child, should be paramount. So if you're a parent, you're a professional person, you work in a certain environment, then you have to observe that. That is why I'm saying that, look, if at a certain level, parent cannot know their basic responsibility, somebody must be there to provide that service. You know, that the alternative programs must be there in order to deal with those issues. So if you see that neglect, then it means that all the mechanical parts that are supposed to work to be able to move the car, probably one way or the other, one person is not doing what it's supposed to do. That's why we have these kind of problems. But generally, we can come to that conclusion that we are gradually neglecting these basic things.
I think so, because there's really no conversation out there about child safety.
And seriously, there should be that national conversation around that, so that everybody would play his or her role. In the past, we used to have where you have the communal way of taking care of children, but because of the nuclear family system, that is gradually breaking down. But however, the law has made provision for that. So where parents cannot take care of their children, the law says that at a certain point in time, the state can become a parent to those children. So even if parents are neglecting their basic responsibility, the state must be there for these children.
But that's where exactly. Because is the state playing that role?
That's what I was asking,
you know,
that
we
who
have
is
these
leading the
shelters, we have these homes where children are placed when we think the parents are not even safe for them. But these same places are the ones that, you know, abuse the children, take advantage of these children's rights. So do we really have a safe haven for these children who are unprotected in their own homes?
When we think about where schools are sited, for me, it's an issue of great concern. You find that schools are sited in very busy areas. And sometimes just there's a very busy road by the school, and I'm wondering, okay, so how are children expected to commute, to cross? So that's one thing. But then I think there's also the responsibility of government. I definitely agree to that. But what about parents? Are parents losing sight of their individual responsibilities as well? Because if you have a child that goes to school, and I marvel sometimes at you see very young children walking on the street to school, and I'm wondering, so I'm not saying every child should go to school in a car, but can't they have a parent hold their hand to cross the streets? Where are they? What's going on? So I'm just lost in the whole conversation of society playing its role? Are the parents losing sight of their responsibility? Is the community losing sight of their responsibility as well? I know it's a big thing, but where can we begin to find?
Well, it's a big issue, looking at things that children are going through in this country. Clearly, when it comes to the role of parent, it's the unit of all the things that we want to do. It is when the family fails, that is where you see the state stepping in. And the state can also step in from the beginning by designing programs and activities for parents to look up to and say that this is the way and manner that you have to take care of children. Once you feel that, then the state can decide to even take the child from you and all that. But that is the kind of system that we build. But the irony is that you would even see state institutions abusing the right of children. And that is where the issue is. So if you are not careful, the state will not have a clean hand to say that they are going to hold parents responsible for neglecting their basic responsibility towards children. But I think that there's a whole discussion that we need to hold, because if you see the way and manner children go through issues, for instance, if you see children begging on the street, there's a law. The Beggars and Destitute Act says that you cannot use a child to beg. It's criminal for you to do that. But we see children there, and the state has neglected its basic responsibility towards that. You will see the law provides that, yes, the district assemblies, you can do your own investigations, and if you realize that a particular child, the family is not in a position to take care of the child, then you have to become a parent to that child. We are not doing that. You see social welfare officers doing their own thing.
Yes,
and that is also
the issue. But anyway,
issue.
Bright, you just stepped into a very interesting part of the conversation, but we don't have any more time. And so we'll wrap it up by saying that each and every one of us has a role to play in ensuring the children's safety. Because remember, the children are the future, and we want Ghana to be great. So let's make sure these children are safe for everyone. We'll take a break at this point. We'll be back with more. Stay here.
Welcome back. Our career woman for today is Nana Ohima Inchidakwa, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Celio Naturel. And for me, her company sounds very interesting because apart from just providing skincare products, she actually does that in a cruelty-free environment. We have her here today, and she's going to talk to us about her journey, her company, and a lot more. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
So you've transitioned interestingly from a corporate environment into owning your own business, and I'm sure there's a lot of things you'd like to tell us. So just generally tell us how you started the business, what it's all about, and how you've done so far.
Right. I started when I was still in banking, and it's been challenging because I just thought, well, this is my hobby. I love to do it. Passion is different from running a business. I had to learn the hard way, yes. But I love it. So even if sometimes I don't get the money I want, I'm like, well, being passionate about something is like, you do it even though you're not getting paid for it. So you still enjoy it. So that's the good side of it. Yes.
But you're dealing in skincare, so I'm interested in finding out, had you always had an interest in finding out what works for my skin? Did you have any skin issues that made you go in that direction?
Not really. I've actually always had a beautiful skin because I take care of it. It's hard work. It's just like your hair, your body. You just don't live like that. I speak to some people and they have acne all over, and I'm like, so what are you doing about it? Oh yeah, I don't care. And I'm thinking, you've neglected yourself as a human being. You need to look presentable. You need to look nice. The first point of contact when someone sees you is your face. What are you giving to your person? Anybody? It's like you're selling yourself. This is my face. It's like that. I like it. And it's amazing. Like sometimes they've given up on themselves. So when I talk to them, I give them the product, it works. They all, oh, I got my confidence back. So I was like, oh, so you really needed a solution then.
I was very interested to hear the side of the story where you said passion is different from running a business. Because I find that lots of entrepreneurs are passionate about the things they want to do and they jump in. How did you mentioned you had learned it the hard way. How did you transition?
Well, I was selling to young people, yet I wasn't even on Instagram. I didn't even know my way around it. So I had to get a much younger person to show me how to post things. Even till date, she still teaches me. So she shows me, oh no, you have to take that video off. You didn't do it properly. And I'm like, oh really? Then I have to do it all over again and all of that. But, you know, people go, oh no, this is it. And they don't even take any advice. They don't know their clientele. They're just selling. I'm doing a business. This is it. When you give them feedback, they're not ready to take it. This is it. I'm giving you, but you're selling to people. They have to tell you what they want, and you have to give them what they want. Yes.
So Nana Hima, so it means that basically for you, it was purely passion that drove you to start the business. Because your profile clearly tells us that you had some very great corporate jobs. So one can safely then deduce that it was passion that drove you. And since you started, what has been, let's say, the two most important challenges since you started the business?
Two most important challenges: money.
Okay.
I need some funding, people. Bring me money. Bring me the dollars. I'll invest it well. So money, yes, it's a challenge. You know, you have so many ideas. I want to do that. I have to do that. And it just falls down the drain. You're like, okay, it's not part of my budget. I can't do that. Just forget it. It's a dream. Throw it somewhere. Another time we'll do that. But what keeps you going is the passion, because sometimes you won't get the returns that you want. But then you're like, well, this is it. It has to work. And I love it. And sometimes even when people, they can't even afford it, and I see the transformation, I just get so excited. I'm like, rewarding. yeah, it's rewarding. I've seen, oh, a lady has got her confidence back. She knows she's a pretty person. She feels good about herself. That's it. I get so excited. I'm like, that's enough.
I'm sure the men are thinking, well, like you said, ladies, it's always the ladies. But you deal with skin, and everybody has skin. But I'm interested more because the African skin is different. There's so many variants of it. So how did you go into it? How do you know what will work for what skin type?
And you can walk us through some of the products whilst you answer that.
Right. Most women wear makeup. In Africa, our skin is different because of our climate. Right. So I don't see how some people just say, oh, I don't treat my skin. I'm like, well, you're gonna melt.
Literally.
You will melt, yes. And you age quicker. When you're 60, you look 100. Please look 40 when you're 60, like me. Yes. So I went through, I got a facial package because always my face looked nice. And they were like, oh, God, your face is so good. What do you do? And I'm like, well, I do my routines. So through that, people kept coming back. Initially, I started just with a facial mask.
Which one is that?
That one, the Rejuvenating Clay Mask, which is very good.
What does that do?
Right. It's good for acne. It's good for just treating your face.
All
basically.
Skin types?
All skin types, yes. This one is all skin type. This is the one for the one for acne.
Okay.
Yes, and pimples and things like that. This is the one.
Okay.
Right. So this is what I started off with. Okay. But then people kept coming back, oh, I have this, I have that. And I thought, well, they're wearing makeup and they're not even cleaning their face. They're thinking, well, I could sleep in my makeup and still have flawless skin. It doesn't work that way. No,
okay, so then you just touched on something very important. What should women do with makeup? So what's the best way to clean, take off makeup, and ensure that you have healthy skin?
Right. I'll teach you my way.
Okay.
So that skin specialists don't come to me and go, no, she didn't even know what she was talking about. You clean your makeup, you wash it off with whatever, or a cleanser or soap. I have a rejuvenating face wash, but I didn't bring that. That deep cleanses your face, so it's clean the dirt first. Then I cleanse it with the toner, this one. After cleansing with that, I'm good to go because I use a cotton ball, so I know that all the dirt's left it. Over the weekends or 2 times a week, you have to exfoliate your skin because makeup is dirt that you put inside your skin. So you're just putting toxins on your body and you're not even removing the toxins out. So then you're just like breaking out because all the toxins are going inside your body. Then it goes, oh, I need somewhere to come out. Pee, 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 pee. They come onto your forehead. Oh, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So cleaning your face, clean the makeup up is very important.
It's very important.
Very critical.
Plus, you need to treat your face. I have a night face cream. In the night, you apply it. So as you're sleeping, it's working on your skin, and then you always have a nice glow. So you can walk around without makeup. You don't really have to wear. And I suppose makeup is just to enhance your beauty. So it's not supposed to like put tons of makeup, and people will. I could scrape somebody's makeup and even do 2 other people's makeup. And I'm thinking, what are you doing? The skin has to breathe.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what should be a woman's daily facial routine?
Facial, you have to wash your face, you have to cleanse it, you have to moisturize daily.
Morning or evening?
Both.
I mean, one is wondering, where am I going to find the time to do all of that?
So is it once a day or so what? Before you sleep, you have to go through that routine daily?
Yes, because when you went out, the sun hit you, the dust hit your face, all of that. It's just like I went out, I didn't bath, I slept, that's it. Well, yeah, but you need to, like, you know, once a while exfoliate. If you don't like to have a shower, just exfoliate your skin so that the extra dirt can leave your body. If not, you're going to have dull skin. Some people, when it's so dull, you're like, oh, you know.
Anyway, finally, just tell us where we can find you in case people are interested in your products. And I see salt. What does that do?
See, it detoxifies your body.
Okay.
So some people have cellulite on their skin. Sea salt works on that. And you can soak your feet in them. Under your feet are where your nerve endings are. So it detoxes your body, removes toxins from your body. When you soak your feet, it's very good, especially when you're stressed out and all of that. Just do that. Don't go and take a painkiller.
Okay. So where can we find you?
We're in Achimota, but we sell online mainly. And then we're in a few shops. I'm doing free adverts. Wild Gecko Handicrafts and then Life Health Pharmacy at Achimota Mall. They are my main people. I have other distributors, but those two, you always find the products there.
Okay.
All right. But you mentioned financing was one of your challenges. What was the second one?
Second one
That was a major one. Oh, okay.
Knowing what the customer wants, because one minute they're saying this, another, well, that I'm like, oh God, they're like babies, so you need to treat them like that.
I'm sure we'll be your customers. So you mean we will be like
well,
babies.
I'm a baby
Hopefully
too, because sometimes
Great.
I don't know what I want.
That's awesome then.
Well, so very interesting, because I was very interested to hear about the issue of financing and how you navigated around, because I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs have that challenge. It's a real issue everywhere, but of course you've been able to manage it so far, and we wish you all the very best.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you too.
So we've had with us Nana Hema Inchidakwa, who's talked to us briefly about her products, her company, and the challenges she's had as a career woman. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll go on with the show.
Welcome back. On Lifestyle segment, we're discussing a very interesting topic. Have you ever thought of what you could do with the waste in your house, especially the plastic waste? Of course, in Ghana, the management of waste has remained a concern, and some young men have taken advantage of this situation to turn the waste into artifacts and paraphernalia and are making some money out of that. Let's go out and see what they're doing with the plastic waste.
I say that we don't sell them. The reason why I say we don't sell them is it's one thing to buy something, you know, buy it out for its value. But for what we do, you can't necessarily pay for the value of it. So our artworks are more or less like a source of raising the necessary resources we need to be able to reach a bigger and broader impact. Now, currently, we do not have some sort of, some people ask, oh, how do you fund this? Where does the money come from? You know, but then of course, when you've written over 30 to 50 proposals in a year, moved all around offices asking for support, sponsorship, you hear some people telling you, oh, we're sorry, this is not in our CSR program. Really, what's not in your CSR program? We live in an environment where is predominantly choked. If rain falls, the whole place is flooded, homes are being taken away, your businesses are literally going to be taken away, because if somebody is homeless, where would they find money to take care of their family, or not to talk of come and put in, buy things from your company or whatnot. So all of these things are the things we have to deal with on a daily basis. So for us, we are not selling this product, we are selling an added value. And that's why we encourage people. We get some people who come and say, oh, we want this. And when you tell them the cost, they are like, oh, then it's cheap. Like, when you tell them the cost and tell them they need, they're like, okay, we'll support you. This is what we are adding to it. You get some, we still tell you, oh, it's too expensive. Of course, that's how the market is. You don't expect everybody to be excited for what you do. The mind is an interesting thing, especially when you're coming in contact with something for the first time. When they see it, the expressions on their face, hey, this is plastic, hey, this is this, hey, this is that. All of those expressions, they come closer. First of all, they are looking at it from afar like it's an alien, and then they come closer and they look at it. They're like, how did you do it? Where did this come from? They're marveled. And, that's the first key thing. For anybody who wants to champion any problem, solution based to any problem, you need to be able to get people to be interested in it. And once you get their interest in it, then you can start getting them in a position to ask you questions. From questions, you can then provide your solutions. Before you know, they are listening. Before you know, they are adapting. Then you are able to say, okay, you can measure some sort of impact that you've impacted on them, or you think they can adapt this as a behavioral change, right? So the public has really accepted it well. I mean, they're curious, they're excited for it. But for me, I just don't want it to be limited to the excitement. So we are seeing how best we can transfer this learning process into local languages, where somebody in the village would get to understand what it means to actually want to recycle, what it means to put their waste in the right place. And this is why we created the hub. The hub is to educate people, give them the necessary resources they need. There are lots of young entrepreneurs out there who have come up with solutions to solve environmental problems, but just lack the necessary directions. So we decided that aside we pushing for this, this agenda, we can also get a lot more people to follow suit. And we've been getting calls. People are calling, oh, we need direction, we have this business plan, we have this idea, we need funding, we need this, we need that. We take broken laptops, broken TV, broken plates, bended hangers, old anything. See, honestly, we are not limited to any fabric, anything you can think of. The only thing we don't have on our art weeks are organic waste just yet, because you can't put old kinky in the art. But we are also looking at how best to solve that, because organic waste is another huge part of environmental menace. Waste is not necessarily waste. Countries like Sweden, who have championed all the waste in their country to producing energy, okay, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Kenya and the likes. When you enter these countries, I mean, you are marveled at how they've been able to manage what is seen as an epidemic, And when you come to Ghana, the first thing that welcomes you, I'm sorry to say, is filth. From the junction in Shiashi to 37, Every single bus stop has a heap of waste. Aside creating products, people being excited, people buying, people wanting, demanding, there's still a problem. And the problem is that we live in a society where we predominantly find it as easy as possible to dump, to drop things anyhow, you know, litter our environment. But then again, the question is, who is going to solve this problem? Some are waiting for the government, some say corporate organization. But the people in the government are the same people in the and the people in the corporate are the same people living in the public. So the end of the day, it is our problem, and it's right time we as people see it as such and then solve that problem the little way we can. We started a waste separation process for homes. Okay, so we have estates and people at homes that we give them bean bags. So it's more or less like actually, you know, introducing them a waste separation system. And you see that when they separate their waste, they're excited. Oh, when it's full, oh, we have this, come get it. Oh, do you guys use broken plates? Do you need this? Do you need that? You know, and you don't know how much people are worried about this waste problem until you have a conversation with them, because you realize that they see these things and they're like, oh, so what happens? You go and wash the bottles. How do you disinfect? Did you go to the gutters and all of those things? You know, and when you're like, I'm like, we don't have to if you start keeping them separately. So we come for it as clean as it is. Of course, you still have to disinfect, but not as tedious as it will be if you have to pick them up from the gutter. So the waste separation has really helped for schools, for homes. We collect some of these resources and these materials from them. And one of the deflating factors they've always really complained about is when they put this waste together, then they realize that the waste companies come and still mix everything together. They're like, so what's the essence? So this is why we need to, in as much as we are making a clarion call for waste separation and recycling and reusing, some of these policies need to be put in place to ensure that some of these organizations know the need for it. And we know that it won't happen overnight, but Rome wasn't built in a day, of course. But then you need to make sure that you ring the bell and you ring it loud. And when it's loud, everybody will hear. And policies necessarily have to be put in place. Right. And I believe that it's doable if all hands are on deck.
So you saw that out there. Indeed, it should encourage each and every one of us here to go out there and use plastic waste in your home for something beneficial. You'll be helping to solve the issue of waste management in Ghana, wouldn't you?
And it's exciting to see that young people are finding innovative ways of solving our problems and gaining employment as well. Yes. Because we do have a problem.
Yeah.
It's a major problem, unemployment and waste. So, of course, entrepreneurship is really about finding solutions to the situations around us.
Yeah.
And I congratulate them.
Making good money, lessening our sanitation problems and making, you know, the environment healthier for all of us.
Yes.
So that's really laudable.
Yes. Yes. It is. So let's all do something with our plastic waste in your small corner and brighten Ghana, make Ghana clean. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more.
So hasn't today's show been very interesting? In wrapping up, let's quickly look at what we've talked about today. We started off by having the discussion relating to gender parity at the presidency and the general struggle to ensure gender parity in all industries. On Big Bang also, we discussed the issue of police brutality and how to stop the excesses by the police. We also looked at general safety for children in our schools, in our homes in general, and we agree that we all have a role to play to ensure that children are safe. And then we also met Nana Hima, who showed us her passion for skincare products, and I hope that you learned one or two from her when it comes to entrepreneurship. And then on the lifestyle segment, we saw some great work being done by some young men using plastic. Today's show has been brought to you by Yamvita, a delicious way to grow. Thanks for watching, and we hope that you'll be back with us same time next week. Enjoy your weekend. Bye.